Welcome everyone, it's Sherry Carroll and I'm here to make a couple of projects using the Tim Holtz Christmas and July kit. This kit has over 1,000 items in it and it might be a little overwhelming to get started. So I like to set myself up and get organized. So I have my glue gun on a Positively Everything tool, and then I've separated out a lot of my ephemera and my baseboards and my paper dolls in some bowls. And this way I can tell the difference of what everything is, and I can go through each bowl, and then when I'm done I can replace them back into some storage bags. For the Christmas layers and paper dolls, I've also separated these out. So I've put all of my paper dolls together, and then the greens with the hollies and poinsettias, and in the back I have the things that have words and some of those frames. For my first project, I'll be creating a card, and I've picked out about 8 of the pieces from different ephemeras and baseboards. And I've chosen my favorites. And so once I've gotten a little bit of a layout going on, I'm going to take a picture of this so that I can use it as a guide for myself when I start to put everything back together. So for this project, I've chosen one of the baseboard frames, and that is that beautiful red window, and that's going to be basically my base. I also have a Christmas tree underneath, and that's going to be peeking through the window. This is going to be a shaker, so I'm going to use the piece of acetate. I'm going to trim this down so it'll fit right behind that window. And to adhere the acetate to the window, I'm using Collage medium, and I'm just going around the outside perimeters of the open windows. And then I can add my acetate to the back, and I'll tap this down, and then I'll let this sit and dry for about 10 minutes. For my next piece, I've chosen this beautiful tree, and I'm going to be gluing this right down to the card, and I'll put that window over top. But I noticed that I need to trim off a little bit off the side, so I'll just do that with my scissors. I want to make sure this is visible through the right side of the window, since my girls will be sitting to the left. So once I've determined where this is going to fit in conjunction with the window on top, I can use some Collage medium on the back of the tree and lay it right onto the front of my white note card. Before I really tap that down and glue it in place, I want to see how that will sit with my window on top, and then I can do any slight adjustments as needed. And next I'm using some of the Simon Says Stamp foam strips, and I'm going to be framing out my window because I will be making a shaker. So I'm going to be adding pieces mainly around those windows, and I'm going to make sure that I snug up all those corners really tightly since I'll be using the snowflake glitter. And then I've used a couple pieces towards the bottom just to give it some stability. Acetate and glitter are both staticky, so to help prevent so much static, I'm using the Simon Says Stamp anti-static tool. I'm going around the adhesive and also on the front of my card. And next I'm going to open up my mini snowflakes from Tim Holtz, and this is just delicious. Sorry, it is really great. It has those mica flakes, also some fine glitter, and I'm going to sprinkle a little bit into the center. I don't want to go very far out because I would like this frame to sit on top of the paper rather than the glitter. And now I'm ready to remove the backing from my phone tape, and I do like to fold some of those ends over and I crease it with my fingernail, and that creates little tabs that I can pull away once I have this positioned onto my card. So now I can set the window down onto my card and make sure that I have it straight. If you need to, you could use one of the Simon Says Stamp 6-inch T-square rulers. And once I'm confident that my window is straight, I can grab those ends of the adhesive backing and just peel them away without having to lift anything up or using tweezers. And now I can start building my layers. So I'm using the Collage glue just on the left side of the window, and I'll be using one of the peppermint sticks just on that left side. And by using the Collage medium, you have a little bit of time to move that around and to make sure that you have it straight. Next, I'm adding the Wishing You a Merry Christmas banner just on top of the girls, and her little hand with a paper clip looks like she's holding this banner. And I've added a couple of the thin foam squares to the back of the banner, and I'm just removing the backing from those to adhere them to my paper dolls. I've also added a few of those foam squares to my window and on top of that candy cane, and they'll be hidden by the paper dolls and give me a little bit of lift. Before I set those down, I do want to add my holly branches to the top corner, and I've squeezed that out a little bit too much, but I can spread it around and add it to my holly and set that down in place. And next I'm adding a little bit of detail to the lamppost. I have run that red and white twine around the back and tied it in a knot. And now I'm just tying a simple bow, and I'll pull this tight. And once I have that adjusted the way I like it, I can snip off the rest of the twine with my scissors. You can use either hot glue or the collage medium to put the lamppost down, and I'm just going to set this to the right. So my window is framed with a lamppost and that peppermint candy to the left. I am ready to add my paper dolls, so I'm going to remove the backing of those foam squares, and then I can place them right on front and press them down in place. I'll be adding a couple more details. I have this little calendar, and while my lamppost is still wet, I can set that right under the base of that lamppost. And finally, I'm using the sticker book, and on this red sheet I've chosen December 25th. I thought this would be cute to put it over the calendar. So I can remove that and then use my scissors to cut that one end at a little bit of an angle, and since that's a sticker, it'll just stick down in place. So here is my finished card. All I need to do is to fold this over, and then I can use my bone folder to burnish that crease really well so that my card will sit flat. So this is my finished card. It has a little bit of a shaker element to it, and this will go really well with the Schoolhouse red envelope that's also included in the kit. And next I'll be moving on to decorating the white frame that also comes in the kit. Just like I did with my card, I have picked out a few pieces that I really love, and this frame, or this window, was one of the first, and this comes from the baseboards, and it also has a piece of acetate that can sit behind it with snowflakes. So I've picked out 3 paper dolls, and I've created a family out of these. So I'm going to have the father and then the mother standing next to him, and then the child down below. But what I want to do is to make sure that I can glue these together to where their faces will show through the window. So with a little bit of collage glue, I've applied that just to the left side of the mother, since she'll be sitting right on top of the father. So again, I want to make sure that I'll be able to put these together and they'll still show through that window. And now I can glue the child on top, and I will fit this again with the window. And I still have a little bit of time to move these around since I've used that collage medium. So I can pull this child out just a little bit so her face shows perfectly through that lower window. While those are drying, I'm going to add some collage medium to the back of this window. And I'm just going to add a little bit in all the areas, especially around the outside, and then some in the center. And now I can add that snowflake acetate right onto the back and make sure I have it straight. While the glue is drying on the acetate, I have cut a piece of that silver glittery cardstock and I've put it inside the frame. And I'm just going to fit these inside and look at it with that frame or the window on top, and I notice that I need to trim off the right side of the lady, so I'll just use my scissors to trim that down. And once I have her trimmed down, I'm adding some collage medium to all 3 of my family, and then I can place them inside the frame. So I wanted to show you I've done a little altering since this window frame is taller than the actual frame itself. So what I'm going to be doing is adding some silver paper to the back just at the top where that first pane of glass is showing. So to do that, I'll just add some of the collage medium just along those window panes. And I can put that silver cardstock right on top and press it down until it dries. And once that glue dried, I was just able to go around the edge using my scissors to trim off the excess. Since that frame sits perfectly from side to side of this window, I'm just adding some of my hot glue down each of those sides and then across the top. And then I can set it on top of the frame while that glue is still cool and make sure I have it aligned side to side. And now I'm ready for the wired pine, and this is really cool stuff. You can rough this up. I want to show you what it looks like when I started and what it looks like once I have kind of twisted it and just pulled it back and forth just to kind of mix up those little branches. So once I'm happy with how that looks, I want to start setting some of my pieces down so that I know where I want to bend this. I have a really great plan for this. So I'm going to bend at the top, and I want it just to come up to that poinsettia. And then I want to do a little bit of arch at the side. And so I'm just going to bend that up a little bit so that we have a little bit of a garland going on. And then I want to pinch this back down to go down that left side. So without gluing my garland down, now I'm going to kind of eyeball my poinsettias, and I am going to add some collage medium to the back side and also to that frame. I'm just going to tack this down in the beginning just to make sure my measurements are just right. And then I can reach under with my collage medium and just add a little bit more to secure these poinsettias in place. And next I'm adding some of those hollies to the left portion. And I love the collage medium because I can move these around and adjust them until I'm ready to have that glue set. Using my hot glue gun, I'm going to add some hot glue just at the top portion of this for now. And then I can put my garland in place, making sure I hit those corners and also that arch, and I can press that down. Next, I'll use my wire clippers and I'll just snip off the end of the garland that sits at the bottom of the frame. These peppermint candies are one of my favorites. I've just kind of eyeballed where the end of that frame would be, and I'll snip off the end with my scissors. And then I'll put the cut end under the garland, and I'm going to secure this down with a little bit of hot glue. So I'll put that cut end underneath the garland so that it will be hidden, and then you can see the right side has that finished edge. I've put a couple of ephemera pieces together, and I've used a little clip, and I'm just going to place these in this upper left, and I want to make sure that I'm not covering up any of the family's faces, so I'll tuck this into that upper left. I still had a good amount of twine left, so I've tied a bow in the center, and I'm just going to place this right at the top left corner. And then I can add little dabs of hot glue and secure some of those little loopy and wavy areas down in place. At the very top of this frame, I'm adding some hot glue, and I'll be putting one of the baseboard strips. This is one of my favorite movies for the holidays, It's a Wonderful Life, and I'll place that right above the garland. And I'm almost finished with this piece. I'm actually loving it. So the next thing I want to do is add one of the baseboard messages, and this says Christmas greetings, and it looks like a little wood plank piece. And finally, for a little bit of bling, I'm adding the 3 small silver balls, and I'll just tuck them into this upper right, bottom center, and mid left. And there's really no rhyme or reason. I just like to have them split up and to balance out the entire arrangement. So here is my standing frame. It does stand on its own, and you can see those faces through, and I love how that twine goes around the sides and finishes it off at the bottom. I hope that you've enjoyed the projects that I've made using the Tim Holtz Christmas in July kit for his class. I hope I have given you some tips and tricks on how to organize yourself before you get started on doing some collage, and how to make it a little bit easier by picking out the things that you like and then doing your layers on top. I do have a few links down in our description box below to our blog posts and supplies, and I want to thank you so much for joining me.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.